What is the threat that Christian nationalism poses to the church itself?
I have said for years that white Christian nationalism is the greatest threat to democracy and the witness of the church in the United States today. Both of those aspects are critical. So we talked a moment ago about the threat to democracy. They're redrawing districts. They are trying to get voter rolls. They are purging voter rolls, all of those things. So it's a threat to democracy, but it's also a threat to the witness of the church. So there's a few things happening here. Number one, what's going on with the SBC and other similar denominations. I used to be part of the Presbyterian Church in America, which is a Southern Presbyterian roots, and so very similar in history to the SBC. It's happening there too. What's going on is first a hardening of stances around hierarchy and ideology. So the Southern Baptist Convention, as we speak today, has just concluded its annual meeting. They voted to approve an amendment that says women were not permitted in the office or the function of pastor, elder, or overseer, essentially confining the office of pastor to men. But that has been the denomination's stance forever, basically. So you don't need the rule. So what's happening? They are further clarifying the language and expanding the coverage to make sure that no church in the SBC ordains women and can remain in the SBC. So that's the hardening I'm talking about. But along with that, they just elected a far right candidate for their denomination president, Willie Rice, who has said that the denomination has been too influenced by social justice warriors, by woke, by the liberal left, and it needs to be pulled back from the brink. Otherwise, it's going to go the way of, I think he used the term blockbuster video, out of business, irrelevant. So there's a hardening. The other aspect here is that these white Christian nationalist forces, they're driving more moderate people out, and they are co-opting the entire mechanisms of these denominations. So SBC is the largest Protestant denomination in the country. It's about 12 million members or so. It doesn't have to be a majority of the 12 million. It just has to be a few people in key positions at seminaries, at the denominational level, to actually careen the denomination in a much harder far right direction. And that is really chilling when you think of the size and the influence of something like the SBC.
Yeah, I should note that they say, well, we're just being true to what Scripture says. Your response to that?
They will always claim a biblical foundation for what they are doing. As a historian, I look back at the church and race, and the Bible was used to justify racism. The Bible was used to justify race-based chattel slavery. The Genesis chapter 9 and the so-called curse of Ham was used to say that people of African descent were condemned by God to a lifetime, generations of servitude, right? People were
And
using
there are still people
passages.
saying that today.
That is wild to me. That is terrible hermeneutics. Like, I went to seminary for 5 years, and a professor should laugh you out of the classroom if you try to use a passage like that to justify race-based chattel slavery. And they did the same thing with segregation. So in the 1950s, the president of Belhaven College, now university, was a guy named G.T. Gillespie. And he was speaking to a group of Presbyterian elders, and he used a passage from Leviticus that said you shouldn't mix wool and cotton or diverse fabrics to argue that you shouldn't mix races and argue for segregation. So when folks say, oh, we're just being biblical, you can twist the Bible to say whatever you want. But here's how we have to look at it. The Bible also says, look at the fruit. What is the fruit of these policies? What we're seeing with the SBC and their stance toward women is women leaving the church in droves. We are seeing one of the most pernicious results of patriarchy, which is the sexual abuse scandals that have rocked the denomination. We're seeing a closing of ranks behind powerful men to protect them. And we are seeing the silencing or the denigrating of women who have the courage to come forward and say what happened to them and tell the truth. So that's the fruit of this theology. And we don't even have to talk about the racial aspect, but you get the point. So just saying, oh, this is biblical, you got to understand the hermeneutic and the theology. And you don't even have to be a scholar or a theologian to look at the results of what they say is them being biblical. And if it doesn't look anything like Jesus, then you got to question that.